Hey Alpha fam, welcome back to another episode of Alpha Commission. Today on Alpha Commission, of course, we're going to continue our coverage of the massive dump that we're seeing on Bitcoin. Of course, we are entering that capitulatory phase where we're just knocking on its door. Do not think that this is over. There is room to go. And in fact, you could be surprised just how low it's possible to get in this market. So if you want some targets, of course, you guys know that here at Alpha Commission, I've been targeting primarily this 18 to, let's say $22,000 range. That's been a point where I'm really looking to start DCAing in. Of course, you do not start DCAing in just on the falling candle touching a box. First of all, you need to wait for it to find support and then have some confirmation. That's my opinion. That's how I like to trade. I do not just try to catch a falling knife. I try to buy confirmation. And confirmation can come in multiple different ways with a confluence of multiple different indicators or different factors in the global economy or the local national economy, or it can come, of course, by trend and support being proven. We are just continuing to fall, and so I don't have much to say. We actually hit this first DCA box. That was just for a trade. We hit the second DCA box. That was also just for a trade. And now, as we pass through these additional boxes, which most of you guys did not believe that we could actually get this low, and I was just brutally ridiculed by some people online for having these targets. They just tried to tear me apart. And, in the future, I will not be listening to so-called crypto gurus, okay? Like I have learned to find my own voice, my own style of trading. I highly encourage all of you to do it. And if you'd like to continue following me on my journey, then I welcome you to continue staying subscribed to the channel and joining the Discord and adding your voice there. But personally, I have learned that these guys who tell you you're being too bearish, or they're saying like that'll never happen. We'll never do this or that. Just cut those guys out of your life completely. You will become a better trader if you get rid of the moon boys, if you get rid of the know-it-alls, and if you just bring to the table healthy skepticism and then try to learn a whole bunch of different strategies from a whole bunch of experienced people and do not make them your guru. Do not make them your king. Do not make them, a lord. Do not, you know, call them anything because, to be honest, they're probably trash and wrong a lot of the time. And when I say trash, I mean they probably make big mistakes all of the time. And what you get to see is the good moves. It's filtered, right? They don't tell you about their major defeats. I mentioned to you guys that my weakness is timing how to exit, right? So often, I make calls like I made this call at 53,000 and out of greed, right? Out of a human emotion, I stayed in the trade, even though I knew I shouldn't be in that trade by all logical measures. And so this is me confessing my weaknesses where I stayed in the trade too long and then it just plummeted, right? We just had a crazy plummet that just destroyed almost all of the gains from this run from summer. And so I lost a lot of money there. I corrected that mistake here. And over here in April and May when we had the major crash, I actually was not very disciplined. And so, what I did from here also, I started to make sure that I was highly disciplined, almost mechanical, and I tried to develop my own style. You guys have seen me go through a transition where I'm looking at a whole bunch of different, just sometimes the craziest stuff. and sometimes the most disciplined, time-tested, proven methods, like fibs and EMAs and all of these tactics, to some wilder, different style of indicators, and then also to my own concepts, including some that are kind of silly, but you have to have fun while you're also in this industry, or you're just going to get bored and leave, right? So again, like you should adopt, strategies that make sense to you and try to cut out the noise and don't put your faith in anyone else. At the end of the day, trading is up to you. And guys, if you've been following this channel, you made it, right? We have been warning about these possible levels ever since November. And, while everyone else was screaming to go to the moon, we've always included that healthy dose of skepticism. While we have included the bullish perspectives, I've always mentioned that we should be highly aware of what's going on in the global economy. And while a lot of these guys are just learning about interest rates today, I mean, to be honest, I think most people in crypto only learned what the Federal Reserve was like maybe a month ago. We have been discussing these topics here for half a year or more. And guys, you made it. You made it. You made it to these levels where you're going to soon be able to start accumulating with Elon Musk and the whales and the VCs at all the institutions, where they want to accumulate the coins that they're taking from the dumb money. You are now graduating to smart money, and so congratulations. There will be additional blood. You can see the price just dropping, right before us. And again, don't feel rushed. This isn't going to be a V-shaped recovery. Look at 2018 and how we slid off this cliff, and we just kind of rounded out, right? You can be perfectly fine just waiting for some type of accumulation pattern to start rounding out, and for all these weekly EMAs to start crossing bullishly, and you're going to get in on the next run. Guys, you do not have to make it harder on yourselves than that. A lot of people like to criticize EMAs as being, quote unquote, lagging indicators. But every warning that I was able to give you was thanks to, this method of trading, which I learned from my friend Crypto Reda, and of course that he learned from people before him. And these are time-tested and true methods to find sure footing in these type of markets, whether we're talking about stocks or crypto or forex, whatever you want to look at. The EMAs are a proven strategy, and if you can add to that Fibonacci's, if you can add to that learning how to trade structure, if you can add to that, some type of confluences with some of the zanier things, whether it's fractals or fib circles or fib channels, whatever you might want to throw on top of there, in addition to the standard horizontal supply and demand zones, then I think you are going to be a success in this industry. And so, really try to take this time in the bear market to be learning, and don't feel rushed, don't feel pressured to buy. Again, these are just zones that I would like to DCA into some projects because we don't know the absolute bottom, but it's just a small portion of the portfolio until we get some confirmation of a bottom, until we have a confirmation that the market, the macro economy, and the bigger picture is turning into a positive direction. You just don't need to deploy your assets, in huge quantities into a highly risky market without that confirmation. You want to have that confirmation first, and it is okay to DCA into some projects, but only if you personally have researched it and understand the risks that are involved with that project. Otherwise, I would say it's better to buy at the beginning of the next bull run than it would be to accumulate bad projects halfway down the fall or in the early beginning when the project may die before the next bull run because maybe they have mismanagement, maybe they run out of funds, maybe they have a scandal, maybe one of their CEOs goes to jail, something like that, right? Maybe they change the laws and that project no longer can operate how it was promised to operate. The regulatory framework is changing rapidly. And guys, I just want you to understand these principles. The Moon Boys and, the guys who are just trying to push their channels and push their paid programs, these guys really want you to stay addicted. There's no doubt that if I stay in this industry long enough, probably I'm going to have some of that pressure on my shoulders eventually as well. But I make the promise, the same as I made when I first started this channel, and that I've had a Discord for, over half a year, and I had a one before that for a year, and that was completely free. And my current Discord is still completely free. You guys can find the link in the description below if you just want to join the conversation and learn with us during this bear market. Definitely, you will not be charged anything for that. As time goes on, of course, the more time that we spend, educating people, maybe we'll have to flip it around in the next bull market. So take advantage of these resources while you can. But again, I retain that promise. I would rather lose friends. I would rather lose moderators. I would rather lose the people around me from this industry, which is a really dirty industry, than even have the suspicion of corruption, than even have the suspicion of, double dealing or, um, anything, the slightest thing, because I know how this industry works, and it may seem harsh to some people, but and it may even be overreactive, but it's better to keep a good name. It's better to keep your hands clean and to be honest with people. The way that I've been trying to be as honest as possible about every single move, even though making those Moon Boy titles and Moon Boy episodes can definitely get followers. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for us to learn together. And, thanks to you guys, I'm able to improve myself, and I have improved dramatically over the last 6 months compared to the last year. And of course, I started in this era, and I was not all in. I was not. I was barely in the market at all because I was so ignorant about crypto, and I just felt it was so dangerous. Right? And people were telling me not to get in, and I was just totally ignorant. And I just watched everyone become so rich, and also, I watched people just get completely destroyed, and I had no idea what was going on. And so I had to start my education, and then I had to make my big mistakes. And now I'm finally at a point where I can help others avoid mistakes in the future. And again, if you would like to join that journey with me, please hit the subscribe button as well as join the Discord. And over the coming, half year to year, however long a potential recession lasts, maybe we can share our ideas together and grow together. No pressure. Again, I'm not charging anything, and and I only want honest people, sincere people. I'm not looking for potential scammers. You will quickly be just banned and removed if you're causing any issue whatsoever. Okay. And I've made mistakes in the past. I'm not a perfect person. Sometimes I've been too harsh or made a mistake, but that's just life. Okay. So again, believe in yourself, and you guys are going to make it. If you've been following the advice here, hopefully you did make it, understanding the risk that we're in this market, while other guys were saying that we were going to go to the moon. Moving forward, again, like we do have these, pricing levels that we want to target, but again, I'm not really looking at these type of levels unless we start pumping, right? Or unless we start rounding. I would only DCA into projects that I knew really, really well and that were 95% down. Okay, I don't want to buy into something that's only like 60% down or 85% down because I know that project can probably collapse a lot more. And if there's a lot of movement in the price, like if it doesn't seem like it's kind of like flattened out, then there's the potential that people are still enthusiastically in that project. Like some projects you just see pumping. That means that that project hasn't capitulated yet, right? So it's still spiking a lot. People believe in it a lot. We need to get to the point in this market where people just are losing complete faith, and that will be capitulation. This is just the start of capitulation. This is the pain where people now have to make the decision of keeping their crypto or paying their bills, right? What we need to get to the point before we start really accumulating is when people have already chosen, they've decided to just take care of their households as opposed to buying crypto. Then we sneak in and we buy all the crypto, right? That's our strategy. While they're asleep, we're going to be buying. But right now, everyone in this market is still very much awake. They're feeling pain. They're making hard decisions, and a lot of people are not out yet. That's why I suggest that there is going to be a continuation to the downside. Please, please, please don't go long, even on any bounces, unless you have very strong confirmation and confidence that the macroeconomy and the markets are turning around. I want to go ahead and take a look at stocks really quick. As you can see, we are approaching these levels that I had mentioned even in the stock market, where this blue line was unthinkable to a lot of people. But we have reached this blue line. I had this marked out when we were up here, and I was telling you guys we were gonna come down here. This was this special zone that I had marked out, and if we were lucky, we were going to avoid a recession. We were going to, avoid the worst of the market by getting finding support in this type of a green zone up here, but that most likely we would be hitting these levels, and then this is a critical level at around 9,500. If we break this level, it's just going to be chaos everywhere, and then my ultimate bottom would probably be about 8,000, and that will have a loss in the stock market of approximately 50% on the NAS 100. For, of course, the S&P, we would be talking about something like 40%. And I just want to remind everyone that there is a 2 times magnification factor on Bitcoin for as compared to the NAS 100, and then for the SPY, it's approximately 3 times. And so if the S&P continues to fall or the Nasdaq continues to fall, then what we're going to see is Bitcoin falling at least double that. And so my projection for those hard bottoms is actually in that $10,000 range for Bitcoin, which is why I have that DCA box all the way down here. And if we do wick into these levels, I'm just going to be honest, I probably will be buying the wicks down here if we do have some wicks in this neighborhood. As for just any touches in like this top like third, I'm only using that for trades if we start getting a bounce, right? And in this area is really where I'm looking to accumulate if we start rounding out, right? And maybe we can curve up over time. It could be faster than we thought, or it could be slower than we thought. We don't know. But, I'm kind of targeting that 18,000 to actually $12,000 level for possible accumulation. Like whenever we're in that area, I may consider to accumulate if we have some, rounding pattern. I will just accumulate every chance that I get in that area, and I will straight up buy the wicks in 12,000 to, let's just say, 8,000 if we should ever get such a thing. As for up here, again, I just need to wait to see some type of confirmations. It's not the best relative value. And again, people thought 30,000 was a good value, and I was absolutely disgusted by those prices. You guys know I suggested do not buy above 30,000 multiple times. And if you were patient and if you had discipline, then again, those guys are not going to make it, right? Like, not everyone's going to make it, not going to make it. But people who had discipline and were patient and are going to be waiting for that type of accumulation pattern, then they are going to make it. And it could take time. So, again, don't feel rushed. People are going to make you feel like you're missing out on opportunities, and it's just not true. And guys, if we do break this, 21 to kind of $20,000 level, most likely we are going to continue down to this, 18 to potentially even $10,000 level. So don't dismiss what I've marked out here. If we just were to define it as a top half and a bottom half, it's really being separated by the previous all-time high. You see that? Just being separated by the previous all-time high. Now, if the market suddenly, gets some bounces and then we get some good news in the economy, blah blah blah, we may start putting in an accumulation pattern here, and maybe we have some type of relief rally. This isn't targeting numbers, just showing you what it might look like. But if we do break this all-time high, a previous all-time high of approximately 20,000 or so, most likely we're going to be coming down here, and it's all very weak, so potentially we could be coming down as low as 10,000. Hence, this is my real like target goal buy box, and people will be terrified at that point. Okay, they will be exhausted and terrified, and in order to get there, almost everyone who bought in this, COVID era or in this, accumulation type of era, like almost everyone will have had to sell their stuff, right? So if everyone is selling their stuff, then we have a chance to buy it from them. And that's the real game changer. That's the real money to be made, right? But as long as we're still up here, that just remains a pipe dream. And so you're just going to look for that accumulation pattern, wherever it sets in, just like this. Of course, I will be having at a minimum weekly updates. You guys know me. Sometimes I do more than one update per day, but I will have a minimum of weekly updates, and so I will also be here to let you guys know when I believe that this type of accumulation pattern is being put in. And also, I will probably recommend a few projects that are safe to consider, not necessarily the full list. You guys are going to want to, have deeper discussions. Join a group like, the AR Collective or Ape HQ or Alpha Commission or one of these types of groups where you can have positive support and feedback with people who actually are willing to talk with you and do research with you, as opposed to just getting your information off the internet from potentially very biased sources. So I don't want to put out too much on YouTube. It could sound a little shilling, and you really wouldn't be able to, get all the details unless I cover just an extensive research report on it, in which case, that's something that I might do in the future when it's time to buy based upon confirmations, but not right now. I don't want anyone to get wrecked. Definitely, I'm not shilling anything. And I would only recommend to you guys whatever I would recommend to my own mother, Um, and if I don't feel that level of confidence, then I'll say it outright, right? So you guys remember, I believe the first episode that we have up on this channel is the Ask Me Anything event that members of Alpha Commission held with Clearpool, which is a DeFi project. And of course, I had no problem coming out with a video that contradicted a lot of the bullishness that people in my own group had, and that, of course, those very close to the project, felt that it could skyrocket and that we were at the lowest levels possible with it. But, having the macro outlook and having a background in global political economy and international relations, all of that stuff, I understood that we were headed in a certain direction. And I just could not believe that anyone would recommend to hold at those type of prices. And so I'm willing to have arguments with the people around me. It doesn't mean that they're bad people or anything. I'm going to make mistakes also, of course, but I'm willing to have arguments, and I'm willing to just talk straight with you guys. And so I did put out an episode about Clearpool to $2 or to 20 cents. And of course, I was proven that it did, in fact, head more towards 20 cents, and is probably below it now. I just, let's see. Yeah, we're at like we're at like 5 cents now, right? And so, people were looking at that, around half a dollar, and I was saying, nah, this is more likely to go to 20 cents and, probably lower, right? I did make a call right here, which has worked out to about 100. It actually ended up being 150% increase. So even in a downtrend, you can get pumps, but guys, you have to be willing to trade. You don't necessarily want to be holding these things. And so if people are telling you that, you're at a relative value, so go ahead and hold it. No, 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 guys. We're in a new era, okay? We're in a new era of crypto. We're in a high interest rate, high inflation, global downturn era, and those are three factors that have never happened in the history of crypto, okay? And definitely not all together. So we can go lower. All of these altcoins can go 50% lower, perhaps even. Even Bitcoin, as I'm telling you, can go 50% lower. That's why I have buy boxes at $10,000. And if you just want someone who shoots straight with you, and does offer the other perspective also, because I don't want you to lose opportunities, so I am going to entertain the opinions that are opposite of mine. That's why I can say, I could have that episode that said Clearpool to $2 or to 20 cents, because I wanted to give a fair chance that, that asset could have possibly gone to $2. But my conclusion was ultimately what my opinion is, which was that it was going to be closer to 20 cents or lower, and that it would have needed to hold 30 cents and then have a bullish run for me to even consider it, which it just didn't do, right? So, there's that. And of course, if Bitcoin goes down 50%, then altcoins could actually go down another, what, not just 50%, but 75%, 85%, 95%. You would be shocked at how low some of these altcoins could possibly get, especially if BTC dominance continues to skyrocket up, which it may do. It may end up doing that if it doesn't just hold a level of 50%. It could go up as high as 60%, I think is very possible. And that would be very healthy for the market, because it would chase out a lot of these scam projects. It would chase out a lot of the broken DeFi projects. It would just chase out a lot of things that can't fulfill their promises. And to be honest, a lot of the CEOs, a lot of the people involved in those projects, they honestly belong in jail. Bernie Madoff, I believe it was the Enron scandal or whatever. Like, he got 28 years in prison, but Do Kwon's walking around and making Luna too. Right? So, what's the difference? A lot of these guys, a lot of their teams are very shady. Of course, innocent until proven guilty, and I'm definitely not associating Do Kwon with those crimes. I'm just saying we probably need some people to be arrested and thrown in jail, right, after this cycle because of how scammy and how many fraud bots have been released and how many lies projects have put out there while just in fact creating Ponzi pyramid schemes. And, the suggestion to do your own research, that's not good enough, okay? That's not good enough. When you steal from people, it's not good enough just to have a little note that says, do your own research. A lot of these projects were stealing from people, okay? And so I welcome a bit of regulation. I welcome a bit of stability. And I am glad to see the Democratic Party as well as the Republican Party actually starting to work together in the US. They're starting to make bipartisan bills and they're starting to combine their efforts to think about possible ways to regulate crypto in a sane way, not this insane way that the SEC has been doing, but to get it perhaps even away from the SEC and into new agencies that might be a little bit more fair to crypto. There is still some misunderstandings. Those guys largely are boomers and they don't really understand this technology or what its potential is. But as the US looks to start creating its own digital dollar, of course, every country in the world is going to have to become fluent with crypto technology. And you can see that China already has its digital yuan, right? Which is not the Japanese yen, it's the digital yuan, the Chinese dollar. And so they're in Asia, they're already faced with this issue. And China's reaction was to lock crypto down. But I'm having good hope that in the West, we're going to open up crypto and just make it a bit safer, maybe have the receipts a little bit more clear, which is fine, you know. But and by the way, if you're looking at this chart, this one's only measured on the day, so this has a delayed price. The reason I like this chart is just because it shows the full history of Bitcoin, but it only gets updated at the end of the day. So just move away from that one. We're at 21,000, not 26,000. And, that process could take a while of cleaning up this market, reaching real capitulation, getting some regulation being streamlined, and lots of projects. Guys, it's out of my hands. So it doesn't matter what my opinion on regulations is, okay? It's out of my hands. Um, that's just my personal thoughts on the matter. The reality is, this thing has a process that's already underway and it's going to start expanding like wildfire, right? The regulatory processes. And so different projects are going to be dying every single day for the next year based upon the regulatory framework as it evolves. And that's not just the US, it's South Korea, it's Europe, it's Canada, it's Latin America, it's all over all of these places, in Asia, everywhere. Russia, they're all going to be making these decisions, and there's eventually going to start forming some global consensus, at least in blocks, if not everywhere. And those global standards will just keep expanding and tightening as friendly countries start trying to match each other's policies because they want to continue to do business with each other, right? And so that's why you can't really trust just to buy a whole bunch of projects as we drop straight down, because over the course of a potential recession or bear market or crypto winter, should it last longer than expected, a lot of those projects, again, and I can't underscore this enough, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but a lot of those projects will, in fact, die. So that's why the title of this episode is There Will Be Blood. And I just wanted to give out that warning that just because I have buy boxes here, that's more of a concept for when we put in an accumulation pattern at one of these levels. I want to be buying wherever we're accumulating over time. And of course, I will try to catch wicks, but I'm really going to be looking for the accumulation pattern, and then I will buy in my zones wherever possible. Okay, I'm not just looking to buy it on the drop straight down. That would be foolish. Whatever I majorly invested in could suddenly, that project could suddenly go belly up. Okay, I'm overemphasizing that, but a lot of the new people in crypto do have to hear that message. And so if you're a bit more experienced, thank you for enduring it. But yeah, guys, and again, don't buy mid drop. It's like trying to catch a falling knife. Just if someone says, "Oh, this is a good value," like just ignore that idiot. Like that's the same stuff as Moon Boys, okay? It's not a good value until it has bullishness on its chart, until you have confirmation of an uptrend, until you have an environment that is conducive and healthy to the project continuing to grow. If you just have a bounce, then what you're actually chasing is FOMO, and there's a good chance that a market maker or a whale group or even the devs and investors themselves are planning to dump on your head and just completely destroy your position and take all your money, okay? So be very careful. This is eat or be eaten season, and a lot of people aren't as nice as me, even though I often come with the bad news, right? And my tone of voice isn't, the most pleasant. There's a lot of very happy voices out there, a lot of friendly voices who would have gotten you absolutely wrecked, right? Absolutely wrecked January to April, right? So, guys, you guys are going to make it. Just stick around and keep practicing and learn some skills in this industry. Start to research some projects, and you absolutely will make it as we discover the bottom of this market together. Coming up in the week, we do have the Federal Reserve meeting on Thursday. They will indicate the interest rates that they're going to increase. It's most likely going to be 50 basis points because the Federal Reserve is very cowardly, and they've already announced that they want to do 50 basis points for the next two meetings. But the market is pricing in, with this drop in stocks, that's pricing in the possibility of a 75 basis points increase. And of course, that's why you see this drop just suddenly so hard, right? And then, of course, there is the possibility that they could even increase it a full 100 basis points, which is considered a pretty dramatic move. Um, because if you do the calculations, we probably need them to increase it by 200 basis points at the next two meetings. So if they could get to 75 basis points and compromise on their cowardice and actually help save this economy, again, this is solely up to the Federal Reserve. The only guy in charge of this really is Jerome Powell and his own team. It's very weird that we have a structure like this that can kind of determine all of our destinies um, by one man who's not even accountable to democracy or anything, but that's the world that we live in. And it's been an imperfect system for a long time. That's why a lot of people criticize the Federal Reserve and feel not so great about the Fed, because the Fed can just boom and they can bust. And they create these cycles and they control inflation to a high degree. Um, of course, inflation is actually caused by corporations issuing loans, which is why when the Fed increases interest rates, inflation can come down potentially, right? It can come down. That's why they use increasing interest rates to fight inflation, because it disincentivizes companies from issuing loans and it disincentivizes people from taking loans. And a loan is an expansion of money, right? It's money that's not there. It's basically like printed money. It's just money in name only, right? It's a loan. that money doesn't actually exist. It's just like credit. It's like credit cards, right? Student loans, um, whatever card you're racking up at your favorite store, right? Your Best Buy, card, or your, rewards card, or your Amazon rewards card. Everyone's doing credit instead of paying by cash. And so that credit adds to the money supply. The more money supply there is, the less valuable money is. So money becomes worth less. Money becomes worthless, right? And so we have a credit, we have kind of a loans problem in the US where everybody is taking out massive amounts of loans for the last few years. And so the money supply has just gotten crazy. And now the Fed is trying to, dry it up at the source, which is those corporations and banks and, retailers and Amazon and the auto loans and all these guys who are issuing loans and extending the money supply to people who probably honestly can't really afford it, especially as the global markets are tightening. Um, you know, it's just a very fine balance that it can also spiral into a deeper recession. So, you know, it's very difficult to do that. Of course, the other source of inflation is just straight up money printing um, from governments, where every government in the world just spent like trillions of dollars, and the U.S. alone like spent like $5 trillion during the COVID era, and it just, that has to be paid back. I mean, it has to come back in some form, and it comes back in the form of inflation. And then, of course, when you also have supply chains disrupted, like oil being cut off from Russia because Russia is committing like some genocide against Ukraine, trying to incorporate it and trying to turn their people basically into Russians, you know, which is why they've first captured Crimea and then they're capturing Donbass, and then they're going to go for the whole, enchilada, and potentially other countries in Eastern Europe. And, a lot of people think, well, maybe we shouldn't be getting involved with that. But it's pretty hard not to be involved with that when you see just how China and Russia are evolving into extremely authoritarian countries, and that the US power is weakening relative to China. And so, you know, there's just a balance of power that's kind of tipping, in the wrong direction towards authoritarianship in the world. And, people like to complain about Canada and stuff, like where they're, having a little bit too much. It hurts real people, when even democratic states, have authoritarianism. And now imagine entire countries just ruled by the iron hand, right? The fist of authoritarianism. And it's something that we really do have to deal with. And so that's why the West is really pushing back this time against Russia. We can't have precedents where this goes forward, because then China can do it, other countries are going to do it as the relative power of the US declines as an aging empire. And so we'll see how this pans out. It's obviously going to be very, very expensive. And that's the cost of freedom. That's the cost of supporting your values. You know, you put your money where your mouth is. And if you believe in those rights-based, constitutional, democracy based state values, that employ human rights and all of those things, then at some point, you know, there's a cost associated with that, because not every authoritarian thug in the world agrees with that. And the cost is oil, the cost is gas, the cost is, in wheat. And so that's also contributing to inflation. So we bring all of that together, the greed of corporations and the desire for them to just like infinitely expand credit, which infinitely expands the money supply. the government's lack of self-control, whether it was, uh, Obama and Trump and Biden are all spending approximately the same amount in their first 4 years. They're all going to spend approximately the same amount. There's no difference. Okay. I mean, you look at how much money that Bush spent, how much Reagan spent, how much all these guys spent, you know. I mean, they're all very, very similar. And the party thing is just to make us mad at each other. But so there's this government spending addiction. There's the corporations like greedy infinite expansion of money supply. There's consumers who lie on their applications for loans, and there's um, war and international conflict, and then weird authoritarian policies that crush the supply chains. Like China has basically crushed its own supply chains because it's just been so authoritarian on COVID, way beyond what you could imagine in the West, just way beyond that. They have just gone extreme. And all these things combined, we have hyperinflation globally, which requires dramatic intervention by the Federal Reserves, which then crashes markets. And so, guys, when I say like there's no rush, like this all is going to be a process. It's going to take time. We will have relief bounces, but there's no rush. It's not going to be a V-shaped recovery like COVID. That was because people were scared of one thing, and then we did one thing. We threw infinite money at it. And so that's how you had that V-shaped recovery. In this case, we're paying this, we're paying the bills from this V-shaped recovery. And so we're gonna basically retrace. And then also we have a whole bunch of other issues that have been building up slowly over time, and we're gonna take some time to fix them. So we will round out somewhere. But just want to give you that perspective. That's your alpha for the day. Stay safe, guys. And of course, I'll follow up with you. Please do hit the subscribe button. Consider to leave a like or perhaps join the Discord, and we can learn together over this bear market. So stay safe and happy trading.